Hello everyone, this is Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Marc, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about Psychonauts 1, not 2, that's not N-A-U-T. I made a funny in the writing, but you can't see that because you can't see the script, but I just told you. So now you know I'm funny. Anywho, Psychonauts 1 is a game where you enter the minds of NPCs and see what happens when you pee inside, or something like that. Psychonauts originally came out on April 19th, 2005 for PC and Xbox and came out a few months later on PS2. I played the game on Xbox Series X thanks to backward compatibility. Psychonauts is the beginning of a new era of Attack the Backlog. New in the sense that this was how it was always supposed to be, but I let things get away from me. New in the sense that this is technically not the first time this has happened, but the first time where I've got nothing clever here. Anyway, getting to the point, I didn't finish Psychonauts. I played a little over 2 hours, skipped many a cutscene, and knew that was more than enough for me to know I didn't want to play a second more. Attack the Backlog was originally supposed to be about me going through my backlog and giving games I've never played a fair shot. It was never supposed to be a series where I forced myself to finish every game, even if I wasn't having fun, but that's what it became. Going back to what I always intended this series to be should be beneficial to both me, my mental health, and my ability to work on other projects that should, hopefully, be of interest to all of you. But that's enough about that. Why you're really here and what you want to hear about is, what did I think of Psychonauts and why did I stop playing it after only 2 hours? Well, obviously I didn't think much of Psychonauts since I didn't finish it, and obviously I didn't finish it because I didn't think much of it. To be more specific, I found every aspect outside of the art to be underwhelming. The gameplay and, more surprisingly, the story left me wanting, and what I wanted was to stop playing the game. The 3D platforming is by no means the worst 3D platforming I've experienced, but it can be frustrating enough at times, and this is where the script ends. And now you're thinking, oh my god, the script, it just ended? What are you gonna do? So, just to get my opinion about my time with Psychonauts out of the way, what ultimately left me not wanting to play anymore is that I just wasn't having fun. I thought that the platforming was okay, but it definitely could have been better. It's rough around the edges, and what I thought was going to happen was that the story, the characters, the writing, all of that would carry me through the rough patches of the gameplay. But that wasn't the case. Right from the get-go, I wasn't drawn into this world. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't think any of it was funny. I don't know if I'm supposed to find it funny or maybe clever or charming, but none of that was the case. And this surprised me most of all because I've enjoyed quite a few Double Fine games in the past. I really liked Brutal Legend, except for the transition to a more strategy-based gameplay. I adore Costume Quest 1 and really like Costume Quest 2, and I had an absolutely wonderful time with stacking. And on a different note, which is a game that isn't traditionally Double Fine-y, I love Trenched, which I believe became Iron Brigade. And then there's also Headlander? I think that's Double Fine, or maybe they just produced that, but that's another game I really enjoyed. But Psychonauts just didn't draw me in any way outside of the art. I think the art is fantastic, the art direction specifically, and on Xbox Series X with backward compatibility and the anti-aliasing, it looks really good for a game that is pushing 16. But I just wasn't invested in any of it. I had no draw, no drive to keep playing. And that's when I decided, you know what? Maybe I should stop, because I feel like Attack the Backlog has become something where, more often than not, and it might just be the rate of playing games and all this jazz, but I am too often playing games and not enjoying them and just pushing through and forcing myself to deal with it because that's what the series became. I had to finish them, right? I had to do it. And there were cases where I really hated my time with the game, but I just kept playing because, you know what? I had to. I felt like I had to. And Attack the Backlog became more of a review series than just a personal journey, if you want to call it that. And I want to get back to the roots of what Attack the Backlog was always meant to be. With a backlog as big as my own of thousands and thousands of games, literally thousands and thousands of games that I own and have not or played a very little amount of. It's not that I have thousands and thousands of games I would like to play at some point but don't actually own or have access to. I have that many games in my collection. And if I really want to try and get through my backlog, I shouldn't be powering through games that I am just not enjoying in any way, that aren't hooking me in at least one part of them. The art of Psychonauts is great, but the art is probably the last thing that could keep me going. It's really the story, the gameplay, even the world itself. There has to be something about the game outside of the art, because I can just go get an art book of a game with really great art if I want to look at and appreciate the art. I don't need to play the game for that. So that is where Attack the Backlog will be going in the future. These changes you may not notice or see for a very long time, because some behind the curtain spoilers, I have roughly a year's worth of scripts finished and in the bank for future episodes. When you'll start seeing the change, I don't know, and how big of a change it will be, I don't know. I think I'll still script out episodes where I finish a game and really dive deep into a game, but for games that I fall off of, that I only play for a few hours or whatever and don't finish, I think maybe I'll leave those to a more free-flowing, scriptless thing, and we'll see how it goes, because I love doing this series, but it has become kind of just habitual, and I think the script writing process that I've just grown so accustomed to, and it's become kind of second nature, has also led me to this position where I have so many scripts done but not episodes done. So I have all these things that are ready to get worked on and to finish and all this jazz, but because the script writing process is the most important part, to just get those thoughts out and then I can move on to something else, I end up not continuing work on those episodes, and I just move on to the next one without finishing what's there right in front of me. So we'll see how this goes. I know this episode is barely about Psychonauts, and I apologize to anyone who was wanting or hoping for a lot of Psychonauts talk, but it wasn't my thing. Moving forward, hopefully I'll have a lot more episodes about games that I really love, and even more than that, as I said at some point during this episode, what I would really like to do is have the time and freedom to start exploring other series and other ideas, whether it's second runs, which I've been wanting to do forever, where I go and play games that I adore, that are some of my favorite games of all time, and replay them, revisit them, and see, are they still a game I love that much? Or maybe they're not as much, I don't know. So I think maybe I'll play BioShock pretty soon, because I haven't revisited that game since the first time, and I adore that game. And it'll also be a good transition into a backlog game that I've been wanting to play for a very long time, called BioShock 2. Oh my god, who would have thought? There's that, and then there are other one-off episodes I'd like to do, or the movie versus licensed game thing I wanted to do. There are a lot of things to look forward to in the future, and like I said, when you'll see all these changes and new things and whatnot, it's anyone's guess. It might not be until 2022 where you see a lot of these things start to come to fruition, but I wanted to give you all a heads up. That's why I decided to really push this episode out right now, get it done and whatnot. So I hope y'all enjoyed this behind the scenes discussion, this change that you'll not really realize for a long time probably. But I wanted to put that out there so you know what's going on, you know where my head is, you know what's going to happen in the future with streaming, everything. So if you have any questions, of course, tweet at me, join the Pixelated Sausage Discord, do whatever you'll want to do. There are links everywhere to find me at the usual places. That is, of course, at PX Sausage. And that will do it. So once again, I am Marc. Y'all can find me on Twitter and pretty much everywhere, like I said like 5 seconds ago, at PX Sausage. The site is, of course, pixelatedsausage.com, where you can find this podcast and the Pixelated Sausage podcast, both of which are available on podcast services across the globe. You can also check out me streaming over at twitch.tv/PX Sausage. That is where I play the games I play for Attack the Backlog, as well as some Apex Legends, a lot of Apex Legends, actually, and any other future games and future series. Anything I'm playing for something, I'll probably be playing on Twitch. So be excited for that if you haven't already. Go check it out. Subscribe. Is that what you do? Don't subscribe. Don't waste your money subscribing. That's a waste of money. Just follow me and watch a stream here and there if you have the time and the means to do so. And then if you'd like to check out the videos, of course, go to youtube.com/pixelated sausage if you're not already watching them there, like this here episode. And if you'd like to check out the art I make, because I make art too, go back to the site pixelatedsausage.com. And if you see something you like, you can purchase a print of the piece you fancy. And if you fancy the site in general, please go over to patreon.com/pxs and support us that way. That is 100% the best way to support the site and all the crap, nonsense, and what have you I make. If you are a Twitch fan and enjoy the streaming and want to support me, Patreon really is the best option, because unless you are a Prime member and have a free sub to give, it's not really worth it unless you really hate watching commercials, because the cut I get of that $5 is half, if even that. So don't do that unless you really hate commercials and aren't a Prime member. Anywho, that is it. That is all. Thank you so much for putting up with me this episode and not hearing that much about the actual game this episode is supposed to be about. So thank you again, and have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Who's that I see? Don't be a